Nancy's a senior scientist at Toronto General Hospital and professor of pediatrics, medicine, and public health sciences at the University of Toronto. Joanna is a lawyer, property developer, and former federal government property manager for the Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Over the past 2 decades, 20 years, each had to dig deep to find the resilience they needed to battle bureaucratic systems and persevere through lengthy and exhausting lawsuits as Canadian whistleblowers, where there is no protection and there is no incentive. Please welcome Joanna and Nancy to the stage to provide some closing remarks.
It's hard to, well, actually, it's easy to follow Terence because he says everything in a calm, rational way. I've always said this to him, and then you say, did he really say that? Say, no, that's what they do. They do this and they do that, and people are staring at him thinking, did he really say that? Whereas if I say it, it sounds like I'm being a bit of an alarmist. And there isn't really much to add. You know, I often say with whistleblowers, as I'm sure you know, are the people who are supposed to do the work when their arms are bleeding. You know, like, why don't you agitate for us? Is it, well, because I'm getting sued and I'm getting fired and I sort of lost a lot of money. And why don't you agitate? They said, well, no, you have to keep up the hope. And so Terence is an example of somebody who suffered, as David said, the worst thing somebody can suffer, and then went ahead and changed it. So that's, you know, it would be a great accomplishment if one of us did that, but he did it under the circumstances that were most adverse in life. So I want to make some very general comments, and maybe you want to go first. I don't know, Joanna, how do you want to do this? If you have anything in mind. Okay, so, you know, I just want to echo what Terence said about the approaches that make Vanessa's law necessary, because drug companies conduct most of the trials that lead to the drug licensing in this Canada and everywhere around the world, and we know from studies by Joel Lechkin, by other infamous and famous Canadians, that those data are very, very suspect. Those data cannot, frankly, be relied upon for an accurate portrait of safety and effectiveness. And so that's why Vanessa's law is necessary. If we had, if you will, proximal controls on that, all of which he's tried and succeeded in getting in to try to correct. There's a lot of things to be corrected, and enforcement, as the second last speaker pointed out, Chris, I think, enforcement and the political will to maintain this bill is going to be absolutely critical. But it is because we've let a system go out of control. And I view this as one of the first real attempts at controlling it. And it's sad, Terence, that it was necessary, that all the work and everything you went through has been necessary, but it's an incredibly vital, it's absolutely critical. And when we first met, we talked about what it meant, and I remember a friend of ours saying that if you don't care about this, you don't understand that you're going to need a drug in your lifetime, and somebody you love is going to need a drug in their lifetime. It's absolutely sure that you're going to need a drug. And we stand here not knowing which ones are safe, which ones are going to do what they say they're doing, 56% of the cases or 88% of the cases or in 10%, and what the balance of risk and benefits are. So that's why it's such an accomplishment. And I really don't want to talk about my feelings about everything because they're not important tonight. This is what it's important. So thank you, Terence.
Thank you so much David, for asking me just to make a few comments, and thank you, Nancy, for it was Nancy who informed David that maybe I could add a few comments. And you know, when I was asked to speak, I thought it's awfully it's hard to follow speaking. Hard to follow speaking after Terence, because how do you say something that is meaningful and impresses a crowd when you're hearing after a father who lost a daughter? And I thought, well, really, the few words I can tell you is that this effort that he has devoted himself to, and which he so tragically lost his daughter about because of the failures in the system, that what I can tell you is maybe a few words that will show that there is the contribution we have to contribute to his efforts in order to make it work. I am a lawyer who worked at Foreign Affairs and saw a lot of corruption and a lot of waste, and so I sought to do my job. And I thought in doing it, I should speak out about the waste. And I realized that institutions do not respond well to people who put their hand up and seek to speak. It's a hackneyed phrase, but truth to power. And, you know, what Terrence has done is really extraordinary, because his daughter died, and then he stepped up and did something that galvanized the political sphere. He has attached us as a nation. He's engaged the Canadian public, and that is really extraordinary. But there's another element of it, and that is he talked about the what happens in the drug companies and in institutions, and that is the secrecy it goes on. And we are in an age now where vocational free speech is under siege, and it is under siege. I was on the board of the world's leading whistleblower organization, which is in Washington, and you know, the United States is far ahead of us in terms of whistleblower rights, but it is a fight that goes on daily, by the minute, to advocate for vocational free speech, because on the other side is the profits of companies and the power of governments that are pushed back. So, Terrence, I hope that you can be now a voice. I mean, you've done so much on this front, but we need to, this other element is to empower the people in the companies to speak out, because the adverse drug effects we need to shine a light on it, and we need to do that by letting employees speak truth to power, to come forward, to voice their concerns about the adverse effects. And we need to do that by protecting whistleblowers. And in Canada, we do not have whistleblower protection. We, in fact, have regressed. We saw Nancy Olivieri fought an unbelievable fight against the drug companies, and I fought it with the government. And we need to remember Vanessa. We need to honor what Terrence has devoted himself to for 14 years by going the final step, and that is protecting whistleblowers and allowing employees to bring forward the concerns that will then allow the Minister of Health to do what he or she needs to do, which is to take on these powerful institutions, take on the drug companies, to enforce what he has so ably placed in the law, which are the penalties, the threat of imprisonment, but that will only happen if the information comes forward. And that information will only come forward if we protect whistleblowers, which we are not doing right now. So I urge you to get on the phones, to write letters to your MPs, to, send a letter to Terrence, and to encourage this government to do what I believe they want to do, and that is to protect whistleblowers, whether they be in government or private industry, because with that, we can make a difference. But that is a necessary and essential part of it. So thank you very much for all you've done.